Good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. Excited to be with you and share the news with you. And, folks, I can't get enough of the Tish James news lately. She's being eviscerated in the court of public opinion, and hopefully she will be eviscerated in the court of law. But, I mean, the left is freaking out about this, but we just found out that Tish James had another prosecution that mirrored her own prosecution. This is delicious. But first, let's listen to Mark Elias freaking out, because there is nothing better than Mark Elias freaking out about justice gone wrong.
What we are living in now is we need to recognize that this is the reality. This is not surreal.
Right.
This is real. This is not the abnormal. This is the normal.
Oh, come on, folks. How many of you are excited that this is the normal, that people like James Comey, Brennan, Clapper, all these people are finally facing Letitia James the justice that they deserve for hosing us over for all these years?
This is the world that we now live in. We live in a world in which the President of the United States is able to get anyone in the country who he wants indicted to be investigated by the FBI, to be pursued, perhaps have their house raided, and if...
What, you mean like J6ers? You mean like people who prayed outside abortion clinics? This is so rich coming from them.
They can find a bare minimum of a grand jury quorum anywhere, they will get indicted.
I thought grand juries, when you're indicted by a grand jury, they all told us this when Trump was indicted by a grand jury. That means the case is legit.
The days of the Department of Justice and the rules that everyone keeps citing to me, well, the rules of this, rules of that, those rules, that rule book is gone. Okay, those rules are gone. This is a president who believes he controls the Department of Justice and he decides who's guilty, who's innocent, who gets indicted, and who gets prosecuted. And if we don't all wake up to that, then we're going to keep having this conversation about who checked what box on a form. Nothing about who checked what box on a form is what this case is about.
It isn't? Oh, it's about that. We're going to show you that it is.
Yeah, and if I can just add one thing, Simone says this is not over. Like, this is just begun.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we were talking about the deployment of the military in Los Angeles, and there was a lot of public attention and outrage. And then it came to Washington, D.C., and there was a lot less. And then in Portland, there's been less. In Chicago, it's even less.
And why is it less, folks? Because it's working. Because the criminals the Democrats love to let back out are people who have been convicted of 30 violent crimes, and they're back out on the streets raping and murdering. These people are sick. They're sick. They're only concerned about their own skin. Okay, and wait, let's just go back, because Mr. Mark Elias, and if you don't know who he is like the worst of the worst in the election rigging. But rules for thee, fraud for me. Letitia James prosecuted mortgage fraud case mirroring the charges against her. Convictions of Brooklyn couple for $1.3 million mortgage fraud scheme. Letitia James, the architect of New York State's mortgage fraud crackdowns, now finds herself in the position of her former defendants, accused of exploiting the very system she once claimed to defend. The hypocrisy is undeniable. So check this out. In June of 2019, New York Attorney General Letitia James stood before the camera to hail a conviction she called a triumph against mortgage fraud. The case involved a $1.3 million scheme by a Brooklyn couple, John F. Iacano and Shpresa Jovic, whom James accused of a deliberate scheme to enrich themselves at the expense of hardworking New Yorkers. Now, I read this the other day in the whole indictment against Trump that she had put out. These are all statements that can be used against her in a court of law. At the time, she declared the prosecution was proof that no one is above the law, folks. But today, now under indictment for mortgage fraud herself, that speech leads less like a moment of triumph and more like an act of projection. No kidding. That's why they're called projectocrats. The accompanying quote from Attorney General James remains striking for its tone and moral absolutism. They've falsified document after document in order to pad their own pockets, James said. Let this serve as a warning to all of those who try to carry out such deliberate schemes. There is no place in this state for individuals who try to cash in at the expense of hardworking New Yorkers. Now, I have already covered And you can go back and check the videos from yesterday. But basically, Tish James was harboring a fugitive in her home, an escapee from the system of justice in North Carolina, which happened to be her niece, actually hiring two fugitives in her home, two nieces, grandnieces. Okay, so this is just insane for her to talk about this. She is New York State's highest law enforcement official, and she is actually out there harboring fugitives. Okay, now her cuffs combating upset financial frauds and schemes was marketed as a model for restoring faith in financial integrity, pairing state police with prosecutors to expose deceitful plots. Okay, and then they go on about this couple, right? But let's go down here. As I documented in the Gateway Pundit beginning March 2025, Tish James engaged in 24 years of mortgage fraud. It wasn't just about being a good auntie, right? That's what she told us yesterday. We got the video. She was just being a good auntie, harboring her fugitive nieces, and housing regulation violations in connection with her 5-unit Brooklyn apartment building. So now we're going to talk about, that's the home in Virginia that she secured by being a good auntie. Well, let's talk about the 5-unit Brooklyn apartment building, lest we forget. James obtained a lower interest rate by falsely representing her building as having less than 5 units. That is not about checking a box, folks. That is knowing that you want to get a better interest rate. A key threshold for obtaining lower residential lending terms and avoiding more expensive commercial rates and closing costs. If you have a commercial rate, you're going to get a balloon type loan. The interest rate will only be good for a few years. You can't get 30-year fixed rate mortgages. James also failed to register apartment building and tenant leases for rent stabilization as required, depriving New York City of regulatory oversight and tenants of lawful protections. Wait, I thought Democrats loved regulatory oversight. James even lied on her very first mortgage application, claiming to be married to her father to qualify for a loan. Married to her father. But she's like Ilhan Omar, who is married to her brother, right, to get citizenship. There is no limit to the debauchery and the lies of these people. My colleague Sam Antar reported that James falsely declared a property in Virginia she co-purchased in 2023 with her niece as her primary residence. That's the one we talked about before, thereby obtaining lower interest rates. Even more troubling, James publicly stated that the property was purchased to provide shelter for her niece's daughter, Nakia Monique Thompson, a fugitive absconder wanted on parole violations in North Carolina with an active arrest warrant. And then we're going to go back.
And before you know it, there will be troops in every city trying to intimidate people. And, there has been a lot of attention about James Comey, understandably, and a lot about AG James, and for good reasons. But, when we start to get 6, 7, 10, 50 people deep into this process, shows like this, they'll cover them. But, we can't let this become the norm. We can't.
Folks, this is so beautiful. If we get 50 people deep into this, how many of you are going to be jacked out of your mind if we finally see the accountability we deserve from our government? Because they're going after the average citizenry for protesting on J6, but they refuse to go after the criminals in the government? Come on. Oh, it gets better. The outcry on the media is wild.
For a second, what Tish James, and again, we're still getting the details, but if it's related to this mortgage issue, I mean, this is something that everyone in America, or many people at least, if you're lucky enough to be able to buy a house in America, you deal with this, right? The federal government doesn't go after all of these people for doing this. Does that?
No, but Tish James did, right? Isn't that what Tish James did? She's going after this New York couple, and then they're talking about checking forms. They went from no one is above the law to everyone's doing it real quick. It's pretty wild. Here, we got more. The freak out over this is unbelievable.
Never been seen before in the history of this country where a president orders an attorney general to prosecute people on his enemies list. And then what happens?
Wait, we just went through 4 years of that. Now, remember, this is Chris Mays, the Attorney General of Arizona. Stolen election, anyone?
The career conservative U.S. attorney in Virginia is pushed aside because he won't prosecute Tish James. He knows there's no evidence for that. And then a second U.S. attorney.
Was it because he knew there was no evidence, or was it because he was part of the deep state apparatus?
The assistant U.S. attorney also says there's no charges here. So the president's personal lawyer, whose only background in the law is in insurance law, takes this case into a grand jury herself and signs the indictment. That is insane, and everybody knows it.
Now, Letitia James did run for attorney general on a platform of holding Trump accountable, right? That was a core part of her platform. Trump has criticized her for running on a quote unquote get Trump agenda. And here are some of the things that she did say during the campaign.
Oh, wow. A moment of honesty.
I'm running for attorney general because I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president. I believe that the president of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses. And we would join with law enforcement and other attorneys general across this nation in removing this president from office. The days of Donald Trump are coming to an end.
Is he essentially doing to her what she did to him?
No, because I think.
Yes. Actually, there's any real crime here that he's able to go after. She set the precedent. Don't forget this. She went after Trump saying that he lied about these mortgage things. Now, this is in a commercial transaction. The government is not involved in these commercial loans, right? These large banks make these commercial loans based upon the mitigating the risk factors and everything that goes along with that in their different terms. This is a federally backed. You, the taxpayer, are on the hook for these loans that Tish James is getting a better rate on. That's what sets itself up against hardworking Americans. And then she says, no, this is rich. Coming from a gal who would not, she was, Katie Hobbs was the Secretary of State of Arizona running for governor. Chris Mays was running for attorney general. Abe Hamadeh clearly had the path to win that. That was corrupt as all get out.
When you look at what Tish James did as attorney general, is that she built a case that was run by career prosecutors that was exhaustively
career prosecutor. So the answer now is we need more deep state people prosecuting people. That's what makes it legitimate, according to Chris Mays.
Research, and ultimately came to a conclusion where Donald Trump was held accountable. So look, this is a complete.
Actually, Donald Trump was held accountable, she says. Yes, because the case on appeal was overturned. See, on appeal, he won. Even in New York.
Completely different situation where there appears to be no evidence, and we know what happened, which is you had a career prosecutor who essentially quit.
I can't with her career prosecutor crap anymore, folks. I can't. Wait, it gets better though. Wait till they go through this. Oh no, wait. I'm going to this one. Folks, these clips are unreal. And you just sit there and watch them and understand the hypocrisy. We are talking about a gal who has done this for 25 years. All of a sudden, the tables get turned and the liberal media is having a complete freak out.
Say first, this week, this is a watershed moment in American history. Not since Watergate, Chris, have we seen a president weaponize the Justice Department to go after his political rivals. Donald Trump will still claim a sense of victory here, because for him, the process is the punishment. It takes a lot of money to defend yourself against the U.S. Department of Justice. It's an emotional.
Oh my God!
And then more than anything, he really wants to send a signal to anyone and everyone who would dare oppose him. If you come up against me, I'm coming after you.
Folks, this is wild. The process is the punishment. That's what we learned over the prior 4 years. Actually, the prior 8 years, because they went after Donald Trump relentlessly. Not only did they go after Donald Trump, they went after other people like Mike Lindell. Mike has paid out how many millions of dollars in attorney's fees simply because he questioned the election. Okay, so go support him at mypillow.com/lumberjack to save up to 66%, or call 1-800-568-2865. Give those home operators business. And right now you get free shipping. $29.88 for percale sheets, any color, any size, and they're running out of them. And when they're gone, they're gone. Go get some. Great Christmas presents. Okay, this is insanity for them to talk about the process is the punishment. Do you know how many people? Walt Nada, Donald Trump, Sidney Powell. I could go on. The list is like 50 people long of people that they indicted. That's a weaponized justice system. Let's see if we can get at least 51 deep in this, like 51 intelligence officers.
Next here, because there, of course, have been
Adam Schiff.
lists out, as Scott pointed out, the president freely talks about a lot of the people that he wants to go after. So here are some people that are under investigation right now. John Bolton, John Brennan, Lisa Cook, of course, Federal Reserve, Chris Krebs, Adam Schiff,
Adam Schiff. Who wants to see Adam Schiff go down next? I'm torn, though. Brennan is really bad. I mean, Brennan is so bad. So if you got Brennan, Chris Krebs, that's the guy who told us it was the most safe and secure election in the history. He was the former CISA head. Okay. Jack Smith, that's a good one. I mean, there's oh yeah, here, let's keep playing.
Smith, Miles Taylor, the public calls to investigate Reid Hoffman, Mark Milley, George Soros, Fani Willis, Chris Wray. This is quite an array of people. Scott Jennings, one person we've heard about is John Bolton, although it sounds like that investigation may have begun under the Biden administration.
Yeah, that started under Biden. And from what I read in the newspaper, they did find classified material.
Nobody likes John Bolton.
According to the reporting in his house. And so I don't know if he...
I mean, now, can you imagine being John Bolton? Nobody likes you. But here, let's just take a look at a side-by-side put together by Western Lensman on X. You'll love this one.
So if it's just like a question of everybody prosecuting the person who prosecuted them, we will be in endless cycles of political and prosecutorial vengeance.
There are so many different corrupt sycophants within the Trump administration, including but not limited to within the Department of Justice. Now,
the dude looks like he's reading from a teleprompter. He's on a news show. Look at his eyes. Is he reading from a teleprompter? Help me out here. I mean, Raskin's over there going, well, we're just going to be in a cycle of prosecutions. Well, I mean, so we're not supposed to prosecute those who actually are guilty because the people who are guilty prosecuted the previous administration? Is that what we're saying now? Well, look at Dollar Store Obama here.
These people don't have immunity. And the reality is the statute of limitations is 5 years, and there will be accountability with the next administration, if not before, when Democrats take back control of the House of Representatives.
You know what that means, folks? You cannot, in these midterms, sit this one out quietly because you can't give them back control because that's what they're hungry for. Okay? But just remember, it is what type of criminals the Democrats support. Let's watch this beautiful takedown of Don Lemon on the street, talking about illegal aliens not breaking the law, not committing a crime.
Okay, crossing the border illegally is not a crime?
No, it's not a criminal act. Okay. It's a misdemeanor.
So why are they being sent back and saying that?
Folks, I spent time in jail for a misdemeanor. I just want you to know I didn't pay a parking ticket and they put me in jail. They put out a warrant for my arrest. Apparently that was a crime if I could go to jail. Don Lemon's a tool.
They're breaking the law.
That's the point.
Okay, as somebody that actually...
We don't know if they're breaking the law because they won't tell. There's no due process. Where's the evidence? That's the whole point. And if they are breaking the law, most people will say, okay, then they need to go if they're criminals. But if they're not, why are they being rounded up and sent out, especially when he promised to deport the criminals? And now he's not doing that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going...
Misdemeanor is not a crime.
Yeah. So misdemeanor is not a crime?
It's not a criminal act, no. If you get charged with a misdemeanor, that's not a criminal act.
Why get charged at all then? If it's not a criminal act.
Well, you get charged
because we have different levels of crime. Everything is not the same.
So it is crime.
So it is crime.
We have different levels of. I shouldn't say crime, but it's not. It's not a crime. You're not breaking the law. I mean, you are breaking the law, but it's not a criminal act.
So it's breaking the law.
No, you're not breaking the law. No.
If you're speeding, drinking, get pulled over, DUI.
That's not a criminal act. Well, no. If you're speeding, is a misdemeanor.
It's a misdemeanor.
Right.
So it's still breaking the law.
Okay, well, if you want to qualify that, we're doing semantics. But what I'm trying to tell you is everything is not the same. It's all not one thing.
But is it the law?
What is it? The law that what?
Is it law? to come
Is
over
there a
legally?
law?
Is there a law?
There are rules that processes that you should follow.
Rules.
Yeah, so you're breaking rules. You're
Rules,
breaking the rules, but you're not necessarily breaking a law.
So what happens when you break the rules?
Then you suffer the consequences. But the consequences should not. Look, no one is saying no one should suffer the consequences. You guys are getting things mixed up.
They're not getting things mixed up at all, Donnie boy. I just love this lady. It's so common sense. But folks, remember how bad the border was? Well, just remember, look at how good CBS News, I think it was, reported this. This is wild. They had to admit the truth.
Coming into our country now, we have the border totally stopped.
We're here in Texas to see what those changes look like on the ground.
We've got the most controlled border we've ever had in the history and in my lifetime in the Border Patrol, and we're going to continue getting there.
The most secure, it's actually NBC News, the most secure border in our history, coming straight from Border Patrol. Watch this.
Go past Texas. During the Biden administration, more than 2,000 migrants crossed into the U.S. in a single day. But now, under President Trump's policies, officers encounter just 20 migrants a day here. So the last time I was in Eagle Pass was 2 years ago, almost to the date. And I saw more migrants crossing at a single point in one day than I had in, at that point, 9 years of covering immigration. They were cutting through this barbed wire here and coming across the Rio Grande, sometimes with parents holding their children on their backs as they crossed the water. We saw a lot of rescues. We saw people bleeding as they came under this barbed wire right here. And then we saw hundreds gather under a bridge. They were taken in, processed, and then released either to ICE or elsewhere to pursue their asylum claims. Now it's a total change.
Because all we needed was a new president, as Trump famously said.
People aren't taking that risk to come across because the end of catch and release is a deterrent in itself. And then with the level of prosecutions we're doing for smugglers and for those entering the country illegally, you add that added deterrence.
We've been out here half the day now, haven't seen a soul. We patrolled the river, haven't seen anyone there either. What we're seeing and what we're hearing from the Border Patrol chief and the agents on the ground here is that anyone who crosses now is arrested, prosecuted, and turned back over into Mexico. You simply cannot cross through here anymore and claim asylum, no matter what your claim is.
It's amazing. All we needed was a new president, folks. So it just depends. See, Democrats are fine with crime. It's just the crime that they prefer is the crime that should be. Anyways, again, please go check out my sponsor, MyPillow. Subscribe if you're new. We've got free shipping. The towels are back in stock. The closeout sale on the percale sheets, the premium pillows, all of it. Get your Christmas gifts from people who actually love you and like you. MyPillow.com/lumberjack. Or call 1-800-568-2865. We'll see you on the next episode, folks. All right? I love y'all. Seriously. You're the best audience on YouTube. Peace out.